In the first video in this series, we talked about the basics of detecting comfort and discomfort when it comes to body language. Now we'll get into more specific behaviors you want to look for, starting with the feet. And stay tuned until the end of the video, where I'll talk about which areas of the body give the most honest behavior and which ones are the most likely to be deceptive. The first thing to notice is the bouncing of the feet. This is often associated with happiness and joy, but it can mean impatience or restlessness, so make sure you pay attention to what just happened. Did something just occur to cause pleasure or excitement, like seeing someone they really like? If happiness is the cause, you can expect other gravity-defying behaviors like a smile or raised eyebrows. Body language cues always happen in clusters, so look for confirmation. If their feet are bouncing but their facial expression is stern, the overall message is not one of happiness, and so you can assume they're probably impatient or restless. I really want to drive that point home. Body language cues come in clusters, so don't read into a single behavior without other confirming factors. Crossing my arms could mean I'm upset, or it could just mean I'm cold. But crossed arms coupled with a tucked chin and tight lips make it clear that I'm upset. Always look for confirmation. The other major thing you want to look for is when the behavior starts and when it stops. These are huge clues into what the other person is thinking. If the uncomfortable behavior starts when a new person walks into the room and stops when that person leaves, you can likely conclude that the discomfort was caused by that new person. In the case of the happy bouncing feet, at least as important as the existence of this behavior is the thing that starts the behavior and the thing that ends the behavior. It isn't just the behavioral cues we're looking for, but the specific things that cause those behaviors to change. Another big indicator of the feet is the direction they're pointing. Men especially tend to point their feet towards the person they're most interested in. In cases where you see their feet pointing in two different directions, look to the torso, as it'll most likely be directed towards whatever person they have the greatest interest. When feet shift away, it's a sign of disengagement. It could mean that you said something the person dislikes, or it could just mean they need to go. Chances are you're at least intuitively aware of this one. If someone points one foot toward the door and turns their torso away from you, you intuitively get the sense that they need to leave. If you see this, once again, you're going to be looking for confirming behaviors. Do they need to leave because they're in a time crunch or because you said something to upset them? Their facial expressions and the timing will tell you which it is. Did you just say something that could have upset them and they have a look of disgust on their face? Or did they have a look of surprise on their face when they just saw what time it was? The additional information you have about the situation will tell you what's really going on. Another leg display is just the taking up of more space. You'll typically see this when men sit down with their legs apart. This is a territorial display and generally a sign of confidence. You'll also see it when standing. Having a wider stance makes both men and women seem more dominant and confident. It also isn't limited to just the legs. Spreading out shows confidence and dominance no matter what part of the body is doing it. You could be putting your arm across the chair next to you, or even putting your hands over your head like this. The person you see showing this behavior is almost always the most dominant person in the room. In fact, when someone more dominant enters the room, the person you see doing this will almost always stop. This is a great example of how accurate body language is. You should really try this sometime. Sit in a room, perhaps even alone if you need to, and use this display. Then, see how uncomfortable you become when someone you consider more dominant than you comes into the room. You suddenly just don't feel like having your arms up anymore. You have this overwhelming urge to stop and put your arms down. That is how body language frequently works. It accurately shows what we're thinking and how we're feeling, whether we want it to or not. That's what makes this so powerful. People can lie about all kinds of things, but the body is much more honest and accurate. If you're feeling sad and depressed, you'll likely have your shoulders slumped. If you try and correct your posture and hold your shoulders back, you'll discover it's very difficult. Your shoulders feel extra heavy and it takes so much effort to hold them back in a healthy position. That's because you do feel sad and you are lacking in confidence and your body doesn't want to display confident body language. Your physiology and psychology are linked. Because of this link, it's actually possible to use one to influence the other. If you force yourself to display confident body language long enough, you'll start to feel more confident. But likewise, if you feel terrible, it can be exceedingly difficult to fake confident body language. If you're finding this video helpful, give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Speaking of faking body language, that brings us to the topic of mixed signals. What do you do when someone is displaying both positive and negative body language cues at the same time? Most of the time, you're going to want to side with the negative cues as they're the most honest ones. We learn to lie from a young age, starting with the face. We put on a fake smile and pretend to like someone, even though we really don't. Or perhaps we watch some body language videos and we started adopting confident body language, even though we don't really feel it. When in doubt, the body language cues of discomfort are more likely to be the real ones. With that said, one common mistake people make when it comes to body language is assuming that discomfort means lying. If you're grilling your significant other about where they were last night, they're likely to feel uncomfortable just because you're grilling them, whether or not they did anything wrong. This is one of the reasons why aggressive interrogation doesn't work well. If you want to be able to detect the discomfort that comes from lying, you want them to be completely comfortable otherwise. You want the act of lying to be their only source of discomfort. If they're already uncomfortable because of how you're treating them, it'll be harder to detect the additional discomfort that comes from lying to you. Most people, including the professionals that you would expect to be good at it, like judges, police officers, and FBI agents, are no better at detecting lies than anyone else. The vast majority of the population has only a 50% chance of detecting deception, which is the same as just flipping a coin and assuming it was a lie every time you get heads and it was the truth every time you got tails. Body language can help you with this, but only if you use it right. Body language isn't a lie detection machine that will tell you what's true and what's false. Body language will tell you when someone is uncomfortable. You can then explore why they're uncomfortable. People will generally feel uncomfortable when hiding things from you. So if you can calmly continue the conversation without putting undue pressure on them and build as much rapport as possible, you'll be able to detect the discomfort that comes with lying, and then you can probe those topics further. I'll do a whole video on this topic later in this series, so if you're interested in more on lie detection, make sure you like this video and make sure that you're subscribed with the notifications on so you get notified when more interesting videos come out. Getting back to the body language of the feet, I mentioned earlier that you can tell a person needs to leave when one foot and their torso is pointing towards the exit. This is not only helpful to read in others, it can also be used by you in some very useful ways. To start, you can use this behavior when first approaching someone. This behavior says to the other person, "I won't take up much of your time because it appears like you already need to go." You can make this extra obvious by saying something like, "I don't have much time," or "I have to get back to my friends," when you first start speaking. You can even rock your body or lean towards the exit for extra emphasis on how eager you are to leave. These behaviors prevent you from coming across as someone that's going to annoy the group for the next hour and be impossible to get rid of. The action of moving the feet and torso away from a person is a way to show displeasure in response to what they just did or said. It's a form of distancing themselves from that person. Watch for this behavior to see if what you're doing is building rapport or breaking it. You can also use this behavior to show your displeasure with someone. If they say or do something you dislike and you want to show your displeasure without using words, turning your body away from them shows the break in rapport. Leaning is another sign to watch out for. People lean in when they like someone and lean away when they dislike someone or are uncomfortable. Leaning away so that we're off balance is difficult to do for long periods of time, and so it's a behavior people almost never fake. If you see somebody leaning away, it means they really don't like the other person and their brain is insistent on getting further away. We also don't like directly facing people we dislike, so denying someone the front of our body will often happen automatically when they say something to get on our bad side. If we can't turn, we'll often use our hands or arms or an object to block our torso. Women cover their torsos more than men. They might use both hands or grabbing one arm at the elbow. Men are usually more subtle about it, and they might just check their watch or adjust their tie. Anything that results in the covering of your torso with an arm will make you feel momentarily more protected. You may have noticed that when you're uncomfortable, you check your watch for the time way more often than you need to. Or you pull out your phone so you can have it in both hands in front of you covering your torso. Even grabbing a drink when you first arrive at a location so you can hold it in front of you the whole time can betray your discomfort. This is why I always teach my clients, if they're gonna have a drink, to hold it down by their sides. Having a drink in front of you both creates a barrier that makes you feel less open and friendly, but also look less comfortable and confident. If you see somebody with their hand on their chest moving their fingers back and forth, that's both a pacifying behavior and a covering behavior, and is an extremely good indicator of insecurity and anxiety. The last thing I'll say about the torso is the shoulder shrug. When people have genuine doubt or lack of knowledge, they'll raise their shoulders equally and they'll raise them pretty high. When people raise the shoulders only part way, or raise one shoulder more than the other, that's usually a sign that they don't agree with what they're saying. At the beginning of the video, I mentioned some parts of the body being more honest than others. The feet and torso are the most honest body parts because very few people have ever trained themselves to lie with them. As we learn to lie, even from a very young age, the face is the first thing we learn to lie with and the feet are the last. For this reason, you really want to train yourself to pay attention to the feet and torso. The things we talked about in this video are rarely faked and hard to hide, so you can get a very accurate idea of what the other person is really thinking and feeling. In the next video, we'll talk about the body language behaviors of the arms and hands, so stay tuned.